You know the time of Mecca. America is much like Mecca, and I'll tell you how. Mecca in the day of the Prophet ﷺ was a trading city. It was a city that was developed economically and strong. Immigrants from all over the lands came to Mecca to trade. It was economically strong and stable. And even though we are in an economic downfall right now in this country, America has been known for its economic strength. This is a land of immigrants where people come here for the land and to seek promise, economic stability. But the Rasul ﷺ, when his message came to him, he was surrounded by those who were orphans, the youth, those who were most marginalized, the poor. That was his inner circle of people who came to him first because they had no voice. He became the voice for the voiceless, because Islam is the voice for the voiceless. And what I hope and pray is that the followers of Ahlul Bayt understand how significant giving voice to the voiceless is. We must, as people who understand social justice, as the followers of Ahlul Bayt who understand the message of Imam al-Hussein, it's not enough to cry during Ashura. It is not enough to cry during Ashura. It is not enough to cry during Ashura if you do not put your tears into action. We must. This is my call and this is my appeal. I'm no one special. I have not seen Imam Zaman, but I have begged to feel him. He has not come to me to name this organization Zaman International. In fact, what did happen was it was called Salam International. And in 2005, when I went to the top-notch lawyers in Detroit, Michigan, the top-notch nonprofit lawyers, I began to sign the papers for Salam International. And my ink pen, wallahi, would not move. It would not move. I couldn't do it. And I sat back and I just reflected for a moment and I heard Zaman International, Zaman. And I sat back and I said to the lawyers, the name is not Salam International. He said, well, what is the name? I said, I'm hearing something, some inspiration. It is Zaman International. At that time, I was not even Shia enough to know that one of the names of Sahib is Zaman. I didn't know the name of Imam Sahib is Zaman at that point in time. You know, we grew up in Dearborn, but trust me, brothers and sisters, our teachings of Ahlul Bayt were not so honed. We did not know what we know now. And so when I heard the inspiration, the lawyer said, what does that mean? I said, it's a very lofty word in the Arabic language. It means time, like heavy, like past, present, future. It means time. He said, that's beautiful. I really love that. This is an American Christian man. He said, it's a beautiful name. He says, but we have to redo all the paperwork. I said, so be it. We have to do all the paperwork. We redid the paperwork and Zaman International was launched. Then I began to study. Then I began to learn. And then I realized that perhaps, maybe, who knows, I don't even know. But I made an intention that when our Imam does come and becomes visible, I have one responsibility, and so do you. And now, as Imam says, I'm taking the responsibility off of myself and I'm sharing it with you. It's now your responsibility as well. So own it, please. And that was, at the very least, when our Imam becomes visible to us. At the very least, America may have heard his name through an organization like Zaman International. And they may have heard, Zaman, I've heard that before. I've seen it someplace. I've read about it someplace. And if we can at least serve our Imam by just raising his name, the conscious awareness of his name in a very subliminal way, that was the dua. I want to tell you something, and we have nothing to do with this. Zaman International ended up on the front page of the New York Times, and I'm completely digressing from my lecture, but I just feel motivated and compelled to tell you. Front page of the New York Times. Who ends up on the front page of you think that I have the capacity to put Zaman International on the front page of the New York Times? Absolutely not. And then I started to get checks from rabbis. And I couldn't figure out why I was getting checks from rabbis. Zaman in the Hebrew is also Zaman, which means time. And so the Jewish population started sending me their zadaqah, which is the equivalent of our sadaqah, in 1/8 fractions. I said, Subhanallah al-Azim, Subhanallah al-Azim, Subhanallah al-Azim. And I realized that certainly this imam belongs to everybody. He is not ours exclusively. Do not keep him in your heart locked up, waiting for his intidar, as though he's exclusive to you. This is very selfish. He is not. So I say that America is much like Mecca, in that America has economic stability. Mecca had economic stability, but Mecca was spiritually deprived, and I believe that this country is spiritually deprived. I believe it is the teachings of Ahlul Bayt that change the landscape, the moral landscape. Our Islam changes the moral landscape of this country. And while we may see horrific things on TV about Islam, it is our responsibility to stand up and show the truth about our faith and our teachings. Now we have the formula. We have the setting and we have the formula. The Quran is very, very, very clear, as Imam so eloquently spoke, that our good deeds are done in the service of others. The orphan, the widow, the miskeen, the wayfarer. Zaman International is about the marginalized women with no husbands, abandoned, abused, widowed, left out to dry. They are Muslims. They are even Shia, most of them. And I have to tell you something. We do not rush to help them. Even if I ask for $25 a month to help support them, I get pushback. And I'm beginning to feel, as Imam said, I should stop asking, because I feel like I'm almost committing a haram. I feel this by asking people to participate, because when they don't, I know the responsibility that's just been laid on their shoulders. So now I just wait for people to come more forward than to ask, because I'm afraid of what he spoke about. This organization started locally. Just in the past 2 years, we have taken care of 93,712 people. It's attracting Christians, Muslims, Jews, Hindus. It's attracting volunteerism in diversity of volunteerism like none other. I cannot believe it myself, but I should not be surprised, because the Imam does not belong to Shias only. He belongs to the world. So when people hear Zaman International, they say, what does that mean? I say, it means time. Assalamu alaikum. Sallu ala Muhammadan wa ali Muhammad. It means time. It means, I say to them, to the non-Muslims, it means about what will you do with your time on earth? What kind of steward will you be on earth? The Christians love this. They hear this and it resonates in their heart. It resonates because they're very service-oriented. It's a universal message. So we have the formula in the Quran. We have the setting. And then we have the example. Again, in these circles, we talk about these gorgeous, beautiful stories that stir our heart. Imam is speaking and I'm crying listening to his stories. I couldn't hold back my tears because these stories, they motivate us, they move us, they're cellular to us. The stories are so profound. The story of Imam Ali and Ruku'ah giving his ring. The story of Nabi Ibrahim alayhi salam, where he's feeding an atheist and he sends the atheist off because the atheist doesn't believe in Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And Jibreel alayhi salam comes down and admonishes Ibrahim and says, Allah says, do you not think that I know that he does not believe in me, but I continue to provide his sustenance? Fatima giving away her wedding dress. And the stories continue to go on, and the story about Ahlul Bayt in numerous ways, the sacrifice. the complete altruism. But if we don't replicate and duplicate messenger RNA into our DNA, into our spiritual DNA, I'm sorry to say, brothers and sisters, at least this is my personal belief. I can look holier than thou, and I can pray 1,000,000 rak'ahs. To me, if you can't feed the person next to you and make sure that that person's stomach is just at least half as full as yours, we have really stood in a very poor position. The most basic needs, and I'm saying this to America, would you believe that America is going hungry? Who would believe this? Who would believe that this great country is going hungry? Would you believe that when I go into the homes of some of these widows and orphans here in America, nobody believes me? They say, oh, in America, nobody goes hungry. That's not true. And you open up their cupboards and you see that they have nothing. What are you to do? What human being would walk away from a crying widow with orphans? What kind of a hard-hearted person would do that? And we say, well, we're building our masajids and we're building our schools. Alhamdulillah, we should build our masajids and we should build our schools. But just like you institutionalize faith in the masjid and you institutionalize education in the schools, we have to institutionalize our humanitarian efforts in this country, and they will grow. This is what gets recognized in this country because it's not exclusive. It's inclusive. And as the followers of Ahlul Bayt, brothers and sisters, we have to own this country. This is a country that's given us, all of us, tremendous opportunity. As one imam says, we should not treat it like an ATM machine. We're here, we live, but we're not involved. We walk this earth. This earth that we walk is no different in America than the earth that we walk in Karbala or someplace else. It's all earth, and it all has people. Now, I would say to you, are the orphans worse off someplace else? Absolutely. Of course they are. But I'm talking about the recognition of the value that Ahlul Bayt followers bring to the table. When we come to the table and we have these heroes in Islam, not just heroes, other than the school of Ahlul Bayt, where do you find men crying their eyes out over the name of Fatima and Zainab, alayhim salam? They are heroes. I'm proud. I'm proud to come forward. I'm proud to have an organization that is called Bayt al-Zahra. And do you know how it got that name? An Iraqi gentleman who was a patient of mine, lying in bed, dying of cancer because of God only knows what we threw on the Iraqi people in the Gulf War. Only God knows what happened to those people. And I said to him, Haji, how do you deal? Where do you get the sabr from? Beautiful mu'min man, beautiful elderly gentleman. I used to sit with him for hours to hear his stories about his life in Iraq. He said, he tells me in Arabic, and I'll say it in English, for those who knocked on the door of Fatima al-Zahra, they were never denied. I never forgot it. Wallahi, I never forgot it. I said, these people, they don't need a handout. These refugees, they don't need a handout. They don't need Medicaid. They don't need a handout. They have something to teach us in this country that maybe we don't have. Tawassal, tawakkal. Complete understanding of who these people are in our lives and how to translate that. How to translate that into our actions. How to crystallize that. So we call Zaman International Hope for Humanity. Hope for humanity. Is that not who he is? Is he not in your minds the hope for humanity? After hearing this beautiful, eloquent lecture from Imam, isn't he hope for humanity? But it's not my responsibility and your responsibility to define who gets hope. It's not our responsibility to define who and in what condition that hope comes. If somebody needs that smile, it's there. If somebody needs shelter, it's there. If somebody needs food, it's there. If somebody needs clothes, it's there. And now we're growing internationally. We just finished building a well in Kenya. Subhanallah al-Azim. You know, truly, the dua should only be استفانا بخدمتك يا الله سبحانه وتعالى استفانا بخدمتك. This is our dua. It's not for us to decide how that's manifested. It's for us to plug into its manifestation. People are asking me constantly, I want to help, I want to serve, I want to help, I want to serve. And I tell them, then just do it. Just help and just serve. But I don't know how. I don't know how, Sister Najah. You know, I want passion. I want to do some of the things you're doing. Do you think that this just comes naturally? It comes from begging. I beg and beg and beg. It comes from begging, and every single human being is a part of this great mosaic of helping in community. We're all a part of it. This isn't exclusive to any of us sitting on this table today. This is something that is out there, embedded. It's embedded. Every time you do a good deed, don't you feel so good? There's something euphoric that happens to you because it is embedded. It's a natural fitrah that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has placed within us. Now, today I feel like I'm really preaching, and I apologize for that. It's because Imam, he got me motivated, and look, 4 pages, I didn't even read any of them, because it's almost as though what he said just kind of was the primer and set it up. So, I don't like preaching, and I tell people all the time, you want to do good Islam? Not, of course, our ulama, because their job is to preach. But for people like myself, just teach. Don't preach. We have ulama who can preach. Let's just teach. And now I feel like I'm preaching. So I really apologize for that. But I just cannot overemphasize the land there, the land here. The message there, the message here. The way that this could come together. And the way that organizations that are created even subliminally in the name of Al-Hujjah or Ahlul Bayt alayhum as-salam, the way this can grow if we just plant the seeds. Just make the intention, just ask Allah for your guidance, pray, as Imam said, for active intidar, pray for that activism, don't be idle, and look for the deed. Look for it. If you ask for the deed, it usually will find you. It manifests itself. But open your eyes and your hearts and look for it. Look for it. It's all around you. It's time. It's time for the senior centers. It's time for the orphanages in this country. It's time for institutionalization of humanitarian needs. There's no reason why we cannot be the saints, Saint John, Saint Mary, Saint this, Saint that, Saint Jude. Why, when we have saints ourselves, are we not putting institutions that serve all people in our path? I don't have much longer, right? 2 minutes or so, but I would be available afterward. And again, we were going to show you a video of Zaman International's work and how it's been growing out of the Dearborn area internationally. But you know, I don't know where it's going to go. I'll be honest with you. It's not for me to know where it's going to go. I just know that it's an opportunity that's out there. I can teach you a methodology of how to get there, but the rest is really, it's really between you and your Lord, and you and your messenger, and you and Ahlul Bayt, and you and your Imam. Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh.